Hey guys, it's Davin here at brewbits.com. Behind the camera we've got James. Say hello, James. Now, I didn't see what was happening to my courgettes the other day, and I'd left them for a couple of days longer than I would normally, and I came back to these. But what I hadn't seen is this beauty hiding away in the back of the plot. And so, well, I thought it's pretty much a marrow. Okay, so why not let's make some marrow wine? I've read about it before, and I dug out this old book from Mrs. Genetry Taylor, and well, I hunted out her marrow wine recipe, and I thought I'm going to give that a go. Why not, indeed? So I'm going to need 4 pound of ripe marrows. That's not these, but this is exactly 4 pounds. Perfect. I'm going to need, it's popped over the page. Hold on, where's my marrow wine? There we go. 3 pound of demerara sugar. Now, in this recipe here, she talks about feeding the wine. So I know she's talking about making the wine really, really strong. So therefore, I've gone up from her recipe and I've gone 3.5 pound of different brown sugar. So I've got a bit of demerara. I don't know if you can see in this bowl here. I've got some demerara, I've got some light brown, and I've got some dark brown sugars going on there. Just give a bit of difference. Gonna need some raisin juice. So here I've got my raisin juice I've already prepared, and I've done a video on that as well, showing you how to do raisin juice. If you haven't got any raisin juice, then you can always use this, and this is concentrated grape juice, and we sell that as well. You're going to need a lemon because we need the juice. We're going to need some yeast to ferment it up, and because I know this is going to be a strong wine, I've gone here from Mangrove Jack's SN9 yeast, which will get us up to, I think its tolerance is 18%. So we should be well within range with our 3.5 pound of demerara sugar. But we're going to need some other things because we're going to need to cook the marrow. So we're going to need a great big stock pot that's going to be able to fit all our water, our sugar, our marrow, and our raisin juice. But then we're going to need to ferment it in something. So I'm using a 10-litre bucket. And a little bit later, when we move it on to the next stages, it's going to be sat in a gallon demijohn. Okay, so what else are we going to need? Need some yeast nutrients. Some pectolase, just in case there's any pectin created by the cooking process of the marrow. We're going to need some Camden tablets. I've got some cleaner sterilizer. We got a hydrometer and a char jar so we can check the gravities and work out the alcohol content. A thermometer just to make sure that we're not pitching the yeast at too high a temperature. A siphon, and then eventually something to pop it into a bottle with some corks. Right, okay, now we've got all that. I'm going to follow Mrs. Genetry Taylor's recipe, kind of, with a few little tweaks, and we'll see how it turns out. So according to her recipe, the first thing we're going to need to do is take out the seeds and the pith, but I don't think there's going to be much in them. Oh, look at that. Okay, there's going to be a little bit. What are we going to use? Right, so we need to take this lot out, and then once we've done that, we need to chop it into little bits, and we're going to need to put this in our saucepan. But whilst I'm going to do the rest of that one in a moment, I need to put the kettle on because I need 8 pints of boiling water. Now, she said to cut it into small pieces, so hopefully these are small enough. So I've got my stock pot, my raisin juice, and that goes into the bottom of the stock pot. Lovely. And I'm going to pop my courgettes in as well. Oh, well, marrow, my big courgette, aka my marrow. I think in America they call them zucchinis. And I'm going to add in my water, and I've already pre-boiled this just to speed up the process slightly. I'm going to turn the heat on. So that's 3 pints, and I need another 5. So I'm going to put my kettle back on to boil. So that's 8 pints into my big pan. Give it a nice little stir. And now we need to bring it up to the boil and then simmer it until all the marrow is cooked and tender. The marrow courgette has been bubbling away now for a good 20 minutes, and you can tell it's tender because it's kind of going translucent. And if I take a knife, it cuts through. Ooh, I chose the hardest piece then. It cuts through really quite easy. It's very, very tender. Right, so, okay, let's put that back on, turn the heat off. Over here, I have got a table. Oh, stay where you are a second, James. Lovely. Right, over here, I've got my bucket, which I have sterilised. I have got a straining bag, which I have sterilised. And I'm going to pop the straining... Oh, it's been tied up. Who tied that up? Right, I'm going to pop the straining bag over the top of the bucket, like so. Come up here, James, and I can see what I'm doing easier. And I'm going to give it a little tie up so that we don't lose it. Right, back over there a second, James, because now I'm going to grab this big thing, which is pretty heavy. And I'm going to pour that into the bucket. Like so. Okay, let's leave that there for a moment. Bring that up. Untie this, because we're now going to lift this up. And we want to strain this through. Now this is very, 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 very hot. Oh, I'm going to have to pop that down in there for a moment. But that's still really hot. That's still got a lot of juice to drain out of there. So I'm just going to leave that in the colander, in the bowl to drain through. The remainder of this I'm going to pour in there. Lovely. All right, so let's get that out of the way. Because over here, I've got all my sugar. Now, this is a lot of sugar. So, nice and gently, drop that in. And now this is going to need a really good stirring to dissolve all that sugar. Lovely, that's all stirred in. Whilst I was waiting, I juiced a lemon. Ooh, let's take that off. So I don't accidentally drop the pips in. So that's the juice of a lemon gone in there as well. That's going to add some little extra acid and some bite. I need to pop this lid on because it's still way, way, way too hot to do anything with now. We need to let this cool down to about 20 degrees C. Now the marrow's cooled right down, you can get in there and you can give it a really good squeeze because there's lots and lots of lovely juice in this marrow. Right, I think that's probably about the max that I'm going to get out. Cool, so that's just my colander from earlier. And we've got quite a bit more lovely juice. In that goes as well. So now, because we've boiled this, and I don't really know how much pectin is in a marrow, I'm still going to add some pectolase, and that's going to break down any pectin and hopefully create a lovely clear wine at the end. It's also going to do a couple of other things. It's also going to help keep any of those lovely flavours that's coming out of the marrow. I can tell you the aromas coming off of this are cracking already, mainly from the molasses in the sugar. Right, and then I've got a Camden tablet here. Now I know, I'm just going to add another spoon at a second. Between 2 dessert spoons, quite easy. Oh, I say it's quite easy. Let's do it the other way. Come on, crush it down. There we go. And that goes in like so. And then we're just going to give it a good stir to mix it in. Now the Camden tablet's going to help prevent oxidization, and is also going to create a bit of sulfur dioxide which sits over top of the wine here, whilst the pectolase is doing its job, and that's going to protect it from any nasties. Right, this now needs to go into just my usual warm place for 24 hours. It's been 24 hours since I added the pectolase to the marrow, and it's quite happily just sat there. So I'm going to add a couple of things now. I'm going to add some yeast nutrients, and this is going to help the yeast ferment really efficiently and give us a really good flavour without any off flavours. Okay, and the other thing I'm going to add in now the yeast, and this is the SN9 Mangrove Jacks yeast. Very good for country wines because it gets to a potentially high ABV. Now this does contain its own little bit of nutrient as well, but I like to make sure we are covered from all bases. So that's the SN9 in. So over here with my sterilised spoon, and give it a little stir in, mix it all up. That will hydrate, and within probably 12 hours we'll start seeing bubbles come up through. So pop the lid on a few places. If you're using an airlock, fine, pop your airlock in with the first 2 bubbles half filled, and then put it into my warm place, 18 to 22 degrees C, for the next 7 days. It's been a week since we put the Marrow wine on to ferment, and come on in, James, have a look at this. You'll see this is normal. There's all the yeast, it's come up to the top, it's grabbed loads of little particles, they're floating quite happily there. The aroma, it's wine. Don't know what it tastes like yet. Okay, so down here I've got my demijohn, which I've sterilised, and I've got my siphon, which I've sterilised as well. And so this end of the siphon, which has got my sediment trap on, because there's going to be a load of sediment down in the bottom, so we want to be careful not to disturb that. But I am going to have to poke it through like that. There we go. And now at this end, give a good suck. Into the demijohn. And let it flow. Now at this end, try and keep the sediment trap off the bottom, and just gradually go down with the flow, or with the level as it drops down with your siphon. And keep an eye on this one down here, James, because as soon as it gets to the top of the or bottom of the neck here, that's when we want to stop. We've managed to leave all the crap in the bucket, and it's still bubbling away effervescently right now. So I seem to have made a little bit more than the gallon that I was expecting. What a shame. That's fine. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our airlock, and I've put in the bottom 2 bubbles just about half filled with sterilizer solution, and that goes in the top. I'm going to make 2 little airlocks for these guys, and I'll do that by putting a cork in there, drilling a hole down through first, and then putting an airlock in there as well. So we've got kind of little mini demijohns going on. Now this needs to go back into my warm place, and probably needs to sit quite happily and to let it do its thing, let it bubble away for probably the next 2 to 4 weeks. Now I know I said to leave this for about 2 to 4 weeks to finish fermenting. Time's got a little bit away from me, and so it's actually been fermenting now and just sat there for about 8 weeks. But that's not a bad thing. Sometimes these things love a little bit of time to do their thing. And down here, it's got quite a bit of sediment down at the bottom, I can see it. So it's time to siphon it off. So down here, I have got my sterilised bucket and my simple siphon, which I've also sterilised. You can use an auto siphon if you wish to, if you don't want to give a good old suck on the end, but this is a nice, quick and easy way to do it. So pop it in, quick suck to get the flow going, and let it flow, and then follow the siphon down with the level of the wine. And as you get closer and closer and closer to the bottom, you might need to gently tilt the demijohn so that you can get as much of the wine out with as little sediment as possible. I've taken a sample of the Marrow Courgette wine, and it's coming out at 0.992. So that's going to help us give our workings out for our alcohol contents. Come on in, James, and have a look at this. Because as you can see, it's still a little bit murky. You can see in the trial jar as well, James, it's still a little bit murky because you can't quite see all the numbers beautifully. So what I like to do at this stage is to filter it. Now, if I was just doing this batch, I'd be using my Harris Mark III filter with probably a medium grade filter paper and then the polishing pads, just to make sure that all of that sediment's out and that we get a lovely finished clear wine. But because I've been doing quite a lot of bottling today and filtering, I'm going to be using this little baby. This is my Buon Vino mini jet filter. Absolutely cracking, really speeds it up and really gives you a professional quality finish to the wine. So I need to get filtering. So I thought I would show you this shot of before and after. I think you can see what a difference it's made just doing this filtering. And if I bring you down to the demijohn, which you saw was quite murky before, and look how clear this now is. This is absolutely beautifully clear. Okay, so before we go on to doing some bottling, I'm going to add one of these. This is a Camden tablet, and this is going to help keep that gorgeous colour we've got there, and it's also going to help prevent or soak up any oxygen that gets into it through the filtering process and through the bottling process. So one crushed Camden tablet, between 2 dessert spoons, and it crushes quite nicely and quite easily. And then in it goes. I've got a little bit on the back of there, so that goes in as well. Sweet, and then good swirl. Now, you may notice there's some big lumps floating around. That's fine, that's not a problem. Just pop the airlock back in and leave it for about 5-10 minutes, and those will all lovely disappear. The Camden tablets are fully dissolved now, so we're ready to bottle. So here I've got my sterilised siphon again, and over here we don't need the sediment trap anymore, so that can go. But we've put on a tap on this end so that it helps us when we bottle. So nice and easy. That end straight into the demijohn. That end down here with me. Good suck on the end of the tube. And then we will pour it down the side of the bottle until we get up to about where my fingernail is, and that will allow us some space to put the cork in. Now I've finished bottling, it's ready to pop the corks in. So here in my saucepan, I've got some sodium metabisulfate solution, or you can use a crushed Camden tablet in half a pint of water. And I've just then brought it to the boil, dropped the corks in, and left them to steam for a minute. So, right, here, ooh, that was a bit loud. I've got my 2-handled corkers. Put one of those in. Take the bottle of wine down to my table. Corker goes on, and cork goes in. Right, a couple more to do. So there we go. That is the Marrow wine all bottled up. I've put a basic label on so I know what they are. But you can put a shrink cap on and a nice pretty label if you wish to do so. So these now need to be left standing up for the next 48 hours to allow the corks to set into place. And then once they've set into place, we need to lay them down and leave them laid down for about 6 months to bottle condition. Then pop one in the fridge, pop it open and enjoy a nice bottle of Marrow wine. Well, Marrow wine, stupidly large courgette wine, yeah, whichever one you want to call it, really. But there you go. If you've made this, or if you've got any questions, or if you need any help, then down in the comments below, ask away, write away, and I will get back to you as quickly as I can. But for now, there we go. Marrow wine, probably in 6 months' time, I'll do a tasting video. But I can tell you for a couple of sneaky tastes already, it's good. But there you go. Anyway, cheers for now. Happy brewing. And I will see you on the next one.